If you have a detached garage and you put an ADU in there, that's considered an attached
Attached.
ADU.
Well, let's start the meeting, then we
Okay.
can figure it out. All right, I am calling this meeting of Durham Housing Task Force to order. It is Monday, March 3rd, and we have we have a quorum in the rooms, which is good because we have some decisions we have to make today, so that's good to have. We will start on our far right. Michael?
Mike Mulhern.
Eileen Murphy.
Al Howland.
Michael Barron, Town Planner. Michael Saputo cannot make it, and I have not heard from Judith Spang or any of our advisors.
And I am Sally Tobias.
Paul Rasmussen.
Zoning amendments that will hopefully increase some housing in town. So we're going to do that. That's all we're here for. So do I have somebody to approve that agenda or make any comments about it?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Okay. Do we have any public comments? I see no one. We have no one on, do we have no one on Zoom?
No one.
Okay, so seeing that there is no one here to give their comment, we will move on. And approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes, don't we? Or just January 13 minutes?
Yeah, you don't have to approve the February because they're just notes.
Okay, yes, all right. But we will, did everybody see the minutes and have no issues with them? Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? All right, all in favor?
Hi.
All right.
I abstain.
Okay, you were not there. One
We're close.
abstention. All right, and any reports from any other committees? You got anything? Yeah.
Town council?
Yeah.
So the town council met on the 17th, so it was the same day as the housing task force, but in the evening, I had notes on here somewhere. Where the heck did I put them?
You had them at planning board.
Huh?
You had them at the planning board.
I know, I had them. Where'd they go? Oh. Okay, so the town council actually got an awful lot done on February 17th. We approved the zoning definition updates that had been working through the planning board. We approved a change in the historic overlay district, which really doesn't have anything to do with housing, so it was just a minor change in allowing them to streamline some of their approvals. We had the student rental ordinance that changed and modified some of the requirements. It took away the 3 unrelated and made it 4, and if it goes past 4, then it turns into a boarding
Boarding
or
house.
lodging. So it qualifies under a different set of requirements, and it's based on the fire code. So that was, we'll see what happens. There's stuff still going around at the state level, which I'm sure we'll get a update on. And we also passed a resolution regarding a bill, also at the state level, Bill 457, which would change some of the local controls. And again, we'll see what kind of an update we get from Al on that, because I don't think I need to go through it if we're going to probably talk about it in the future. That's it.
Do you have anything from the state?
So tomorrow is like, we're in crunch time. All bills are due out of the House March 27th. The Housing Committee's meeting tomorrow, and sandwiched between our regular meeting is 2 subcommittees that I'm on. At 9, I'm working on House Bill 342, which throws a 1,000-foot buffer around your property. And within that 1,000-foot buffer, you're allowed to do lot coverage consistent with 51% of the properties in your area. So theoretically, and it was kind of controversial because it could cut across zones. So theoretically, let's say you had a more dense residential area and then it buffered a less dense area. The 1,000-foot could theoretically extend over that, and you could use the more dense, if you could show the more dense lot size and coverage, you could use that, and it would be allowed by administrative right. We're definitely, yeah, go ahead.
Is that by number of lots or acreage?
Lot size, lot size. So it
No,
would be.
but I mean,
Oh.
the 51%.
Oh, it'd be individual lots, it would be. So, and then I have this one sticking point that I'm negotiating tomorrow is that we want to make it existing properties when the law goes into effect, so that we're worried about the creepage of zone. If you keep buffering out, then what's kind of the point of zoning? So we'll see. If they agree with that, I think this will go through and be law. So it will allow some infill to occur. We think that it's manageable. Did you have a question? No. So that's how we start my day. Then we're going to grind through as many bills as humanly possible in a short period of time. The three unrelated is going to go through. Is going to be argued. I hope to talk about like how lodging houses. For 9 years I've seen lodging houses mangled when we discuss it. So I'm going to try to do it thoughtfully. The main part is, and this is like, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? How many people fit in a single family house? And the answer is, if you take away families, 3. Because when you do more than 3, the single family house is no longer a single family house. It changes use and is a lodging house. Therefore, a municipality says, well, 4. Yeah, so more than 3, which is, so if you have 4 people that are unrelated in a single family house, it is not called a single family house. It is called a lodging house.
I thought it was when it got to 5. Okay.
5.
I've been confusing that.
So again, 5, at 5, a new lodging house triggers a sprinkler requirement. Okay, so to get 5, you got to put a sprinkler in. And once you put that sprinkler in, you can go up to 16. In lodging houses and single family house, unlike anywhere else in fire code, there is no square footage per occupant. So the bill that is proposed, if we say pre-bill, how many people can fit in a single family house that are unrelated? 3. If the bill goes through, how many people can fit in a single family house that are unrelated? 3. Because it still changes use. It does not address the underlying issue of lodging houses and why they're so hard to approve. Hanover changed the definition of family. There is a bill with recovery houses. Recovery houses, addiction is classified as a disability and is protected by the American Disability Act. But even so, it is murderously hard to approve a recovery house, which is a lodging house by definition, in any zone. And so their bill is trying to make the same thing with students, trying to make addicts a family, and they would fall under a single family classification. It would not undergo a use change. So that's in there. If we need to fix this, and we'll try. That's the hope. 79E is in there, and so it's going to be a really busy thing. I'll know more by the end of probably next week what's going to the floor of the House.
Yeah, that sounds like a mess.
It's crazy.
Could we, when it gets figured out, could you send us like a cliff notes of it? Or
Yeah.
maybe create one of those, those rock songs,
I will-
schoolhouse rock songs to explain it?
I'll write it all up. From our perspective, what was raised, particularly in 79E, which is the housing opportunity zone. I talked with Nick, and we wanted to, the language right now says that you have to do 30% of the units in the housing opportunity zone have to be at 80% AMI. It's a terrible way to do it because you're going to end up doing income verification if you do that. We don't want to do income verification, which is why we want to use FMR. FMR is a HUD standard, but instead of using income, it uses the 40th percentile of that type of rental unit in your area. So it gives you like what a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, it gives you the rent. And so when a developer develops and they're trying to meet the criteria, if you're 79E, you don't have to use income verification. They just have to show that their leases meet that requirement. So it makes it so much less onerous. And it gives more flexibility to the municipality of how they operate, so.
Well, Al, I mean, Durham went through all of that. So
Yes.
we are educated about this.
Yes.
We spent months and months and months, planning board, debating FMR versus, area median income. We've been through it, so I hope they defer to our experience.
They do. I mean, I think they want to like work on it more because they're worried about when you look at the language of 79E, what their sticking point is you get through like you're revitalizing your downtown, housing opportunities zones were thrown in there. It says you can do 10 years of 79E for a housing opportunity thing, and like if you go down further in the definitions, if you did it, I was like, just read the definitions, people. But it's in a different section. Technically, if you do a historic building and you add workforce housing into the historic building, you could give up to 14 years. It's in there, but they're like, oh, let's massage the language. So it may not get through, but ultimately we want the language that I have an amendment I can handle, but I don't know if it'll go through tomorrow.
Yeah, that's like, because you can get like 5, then you can get another 4, and then you can get another 4.
So cleaning up that language is what they want to do. I want to get it so you can do FM. You don't have to do income verification.
FM, yeah, fair market rate is.
So at worst, it will get retained and it will come back in a cleaned up version for next term. So I have literally 3 amendments for tomorrow to run through during the day. So it's going to be a madhouse, total madhouse. And then we go in session. Everything has to be done by the end of the month. So it's going to be super crazy. So
Okay.
that's the state.
We're proud of you. 3 amendments into the breach.
It's crazy, totally crazy.
No, really, I mean it.
Just a quick comment. We were up at the State House on Thursday for Governor signing of a affordable housing finance bill. It was her first bill signing, and it's CPACE, and it is for gap financing for developers, and it's a no lien type of loan. It's a great terms of 30 years at a lower interest rate. So it was exciting to see that the first bill that our governor signed was
something positive.
affordable housing.
That we actually get something done.
I went to this meeting with a bunch of developers and housing people, and Chinberg said that is the thing they need most, is the gap financing.
There could be 10 lenders on a affordable housing development.
Yeah.
And, I've always said that you have to find 50% subsidy to make it affordable. And each one of these gap lending programs, is one step forward in trying to get that 50% subsidy.
And he said that point in the process is the one that is the most difficult to overcome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good.
Anything new on the credit union project?
Yeah, we're actually head down to Boston tomorrow. We are in an MOU with Preservation of Affordable Housing, POA. They're a wonderful developer down in Boston and in Chicago and other locations throughout the country. So they have about 13,000 units. And we were working with Portsmouth Housing Authority, but when they were awarded the Sherburne School, you can only apply for 9% LIHTC money on one development a year. So obviously with that, PHA has priority and we had to move on. So we think we found a great partner.
Great.
We'll see. There's a
So
lot
would
of,
they be like the master developer?
yeah, they would be the master
they're a
developer. We would be
nonprofit?
partners in it, but they would be the master developer. Yeah. We've said it from the get-go at Service Credit Union. We're not developers and we're not landlords.
Right.
We happen to have 29 acres that we can utilize for affordable housing, but we need a good partner.
Oh, you don't want to build it, you don't want to manage it.
And they're a nonprofit?
They are, yeah.
To that point though, New Hampshire Housing has a thing, which is the case studies of, I don't know what it is, like 12 of the HOP grant communities. But what I've said over and over again now, and I kind of reached out to Noah Hodges, and hopefully our committee in Concord has it, but there were 90 HOP grant communities that came out. It was $7.9 million has been allocated to this, and yet what the actual ordinances that came out of that, it really, there's not really somewhere where you can just say, hey, what did these people do? I mean, some of it is in those case studies, but it would be immensely helpful to see what work like that has come about so that you don't have to go through it yourself. You can piggyback off their work and like, say, share it, okay?
Right.
I mean, there were some common themes like ADUs and lot size and stuff like that. But I think the more that we can harness those creative ideas that came out of that and let people who've already kind of fought through some of the obstacles help the others to piggyback and save them time would be just great.
You are so right, Al. I mean, there's no reason to redo everything again. These folks, I mean, POA has 40 developments in their pipeline right now. They've done it before. They interact with the housing authorities in 13 states, and so
They know what they're doing.
we have a lot to learn. But we still need to go through the whole process at the city
Yeah.
of Portsmouth. We hopefully soon will be in front of TAC, and the Technical Advisory Commission really sets you up for the planning board, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the lessons of how to make, because I keep hearing like, let's be more efficient, let's be more efficient.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get more efficient? And I think learning the lessons of how municipalities, planning boards and all that effectively set up a project for success and make it move through in a way that doesn't make it cost inefficient. And, I mean, right now with headwinds, and I'm not trying to be political, but with tariffs and all that on lumber and steel and everything else, it's like what was already really challenging is pushing into like insane. So
Yeah, that it will be impossible. With a
Yeah.
25% tariff in Canada,
It will be
we can
impossible,
put this
yeah.
on hold for a while.
yeah,
So we just have to kind of wait it through,
but we can still get all of the process piece in place. We definitely can make more efficient.
Right.
Well, let's move on now so we can get this done. It is March, and we're actually coming down to our deadline with the Housing Task Force, and I would like to stay as close to our deadline as possible of being done, May? I don't know if we'll get to May, but maybe June, to be able to finally close it off when you think of presentation to the planning board and then advocating for these changes. But back in 22, Heather, you must remember this.
Seems like it was longer ago than
It
that.
seemed like it was longer than that, when we had the stoning of the housing task force in the village square. We went through everything, and it's kind of interesting now because when you're looking at these changes that they were very thoughtful changes at the time. How much has changed just in a 2-year period? So we have this up. So as we're going to go through this document as the changes we made before, and then see are those changes still pertinent, or do we want to tweak them a bit? I think we definitely have already started to look at some changes that we made to the allowed uses that we got to tweak some more. So we're going to go through this from here. So if anybody's out there watching, this is what was from August 22, 2022. And we are going to be going through these, and we'll just make note of what we want to keep and get rid of. So,
Sally, excuse me.
Yeah.
Do you want to go through this whole document, which includes a lot of text, or do you want to start with the tables?
I think we should. I think we should start with the tables.
Yeah.
There's some text in here. I think we could probably tweak the accessory dwelling unit, but I think in area medium income, that's pretty basic. But I think getting down to
I don't know.
what's allowed, it's
Are
here.
we,
Is it easier though
You did some of this last week?
Yeah,
did
a
a
little
tiny
bit.
bit.
I realized that the table I gave you last week was not the correct one.
So I haven't
Because it
missed
changed. I
anything.
just handed it out.
Yeah.
This one you had updated as of November 30th, 2022. This was the last thing the
So
task
this
force
one,
did.
this one here is the most recent.
November 30th, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, Heather, you had something you were saying, what were you thinking about the
Well,
process?
you just breeze through all those, and I don't know, it might be easier to start at the top and work your way down. But if you
Anything
guys
ra-
want to start
Just
there,
go
because,
quickly.
because
Yeah,
that
we
way
can do
people
that.
understand maybe what those are more. I
We
don't
can do
know, it's
that.
up to you guys.
No, I think that's
Yeah.
probably okay, because we'll get to that, and it will be, because there is some changes in definitions I think we probably want to look at and consider, we don't have to come up with those definitions today, because I do find wordsmithing to be
Yeah,
a
no, I
waste
think
of
it's
time.
more about the sense of the
I would
change.
Yeah.
avoid definitions. Let's not even look at, because one of the things that just happened in the last month
Yeah.
is the town council approved a new set of definitions the planning board had already gone over, and we looked at a
And
lot
you're
of
all,
this stuff.
like,
Well,
So-
except for the fact, like, concepts of the ADU changes. And
yeah,
mean,
I
those
think
are-
just the concept, yeah, I think that, I'm not
And
going to
if
get in,
something's changed since because we've done other
we're going to add that definition.
updates
Yeah.
from the planning board, then we can just say that and move on.
Dude, the only one I would throw up there, because you have it highlighted in blue up there, is area median income is defined. Do you want to put in a definition for fair market rental? Did you guys do it?
Do we have a
yeah.
definition for fair market rent?
Let's see.
I don't
Well,
think
in the
it's-
attainable
I don't think it was in the
housing
zoning
ordinance,
update.
There's lots of stuff.
Maybe
Let's
we
see,
need
did
a-
put definitions
Let's just
in
make a
there?
note to verify it and move on.
Let's, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't meaning.
I'm just wondering, because if it wasn't in the attainable, if it wasn't as a definition added in the attainable, then we would want to
then
add
we'll
it
need to
now.
add it.
Just, you guys can check it. I don't
Yeah.
think that's something
Right.
you guys can easily.
But we can
fix.
keep the,
Right.
I think as far as the accessory dwelling unit attached, accessory dwelling
It's
unit
fine.
detached, I think is fine. Area medium income is pretty basic, and we should add in that fair market if not already there. And I'm not going to get into these another effect, I'm not going to get into those, because that's a bit wordsmithing.
Yeah.
And reasonable and realistic opportunities for the development of, okay, do
We have a
Yeah,
definition now for,
we need that?
Yeah, some of these, I think, maybe,
They're
you know,
quagmires.
we'll look at that later.
Yeah.
Because that's related to conservation subdivision.
Yeah,
I
that's.
just have one thought. When we're looking at these numbers, in some instances, it would be really good to know the reasoning for having done it. And I think that this is where the last effort kind of ran aground. People will say, well, you know, why are you doing this? And I think it would be good if we knew. You know, in some instances, like you might be reducing the lot size, and people are saying, well, what you want, is that to get more houses on that property? And is that going,
Yeah.
how is that going to work? So I think in some instances where we have a question, it might be really, it would be a safeguard for us to understand.
Explain that a little bit, yeah.
Especially lot sizes.
Yeah, especially when it comes to walk side. We have a definition for workforce housing.
Yeah.
That's just a state definition.
We're
Yeah.
tired of talking about that.
I don't even want to get into that.
No.
So we're through that. Now we're into our zoning districts. We added to here, basically through conservation subdivision, pocket neighborhoods, and other approaches that limit impact on valuable open space and productive agricultural lands. I think that's probably,
little
what do you
guy.
think, Michael?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think some of these we'll want to come back to after.
We'll come back to look at all
verify the
these, yep.
table.
Yeah, some of them we will need to.
well, I think of some of those, they were, you know, we had all of the,
Yeah, we are going to need to look at these.
we
So,
took that out, all those out for a reason, though. Does anybody even remember?
Which one?
Let's read it so I can.
Yeah.
which one are we on?
moving around.
Are you on RA? Or the
Yeah, I
one
didn't
above
mean
or the
to
one
They're
below?
all
distract
the
you.
same, then just
Yeah.
stop for a minute on one of them.
All right, let me go down
I
this.
didn't mean to distract you by giving all this background information.
As-
Because the tables we were focusing on.
as
It's
part-
just a,
You must be
that,
sorry.
that's just a useless paragraph
Really.
because everything, it's duplicating what's already in the
Yeah.
conservation subdivisions that you're already saying you're gonna have to follow.
So we
Okay.
basically took that out because we
So,
found it
so
was-
to avoid, because the risk with a paragraph like that is that if the conservation subdivision area gets updated to something other than what's in red right now you have a conflict in the zoning.
Right, and it will be updated.
I mean, to Judith's point, though, we can explain that. Like, this is why we crossed
Right,
this
right.
off. That's not that hard. You just did, so that's pretty easy.
It was,
Well, you're going to hear from Beth Olshansky.
Oh, we
well,
will.
For sure.
we will for sure, but we have, that's the reason why we put a lot of thought into some of these things. And I think explaining that it's not that when you reduce lot size, it doesn't mean you can now put 5 houses on that lot size. It means you can put 1 house on a smaller lot.
But what is it, why do that? That's the question that will be
Well,
asked.
Because we're looking to add.
it doesn't mean you have to, but it means you can.
Which in some,
It makes it cheaper for you to build that house.
I can't argue with that,
Yeah.
And that's-
But
much as I'd like to.
Yeah, because it does make it cheaper, and if,
It keeps you from cutting down a half-acre of forest somewhere else to put that house.
yep.
This is a complicated thing.
Yeah.
I'll talk, let's meet behind the barn.
I mean, we can come up with some generalized explanations.
Yeah, in Churchill, we added, or workforce housing. I think we're gonna really have to do some work on the whole workforce housing aspect of that, because it's really, I don't know, we're gonna have to.
The state screwed over workforce housing.
Yeah, it's just very difficult to maybe reconcile it. Office and research, and then mixed use, including residential uses. Part of some of the, in the office and research to add mixed use and residential uses, we wanted to add that. Because right now, that's not really allowed, is it? But we'll get to,
Right.
we will be getting to the,
And that's an interesting one, yeah.
yeah, we're gonna be getting to that now. So, here we have our suggestions that we had before. And
Now, how many of these?
we did make some changes.
Yeah, I can tell you what you did last week.
I have that
That was on a,
too.
that was on a different table, but I can tell you what you did.
It was a different table, but we made some suggestions.
Well, I think they were, it looks like they're, no, this is that one.
All right, so what we suggested last,
This is what I was. yeah.
okay, we make sure that you're looking at the one that says November 30th. It should be a little purple.
Well, I have the one that we actually
Yeah.
worked on last month.
And I have
here.
the one we worked on last week, so we can change them. We need to keep record of it. So let's just start this top. So we have residence, single family. That, of course, is, now this is just where it's allowed. We're not talking about dimensions or lot sizes at this point. It's just like where we're going to allow certain things. So this should go pretty quickly. It's P all the way across. This is what we discussed last meeting. We still kept X in central business. It certainly does not belong in central business.
No.
It's permitted in office, in PO, professional office. Churchill is permitted. Courthouse, we kept it as an X, and Coe's Corner, we kept it as an X. Why are single-family residents not allowed in Coe's Corner?
Because there already are some,
But
right?
why?
Is there
why
any
would
land
you
out there?
ask?
Could you subdivide out in Coe's Corner and
There's
put
some
another
land
house
out
on
there.
there?
Yeah, there's land out there. There's some pieces of land out there. But there are single-family residences there now.
There are now. I don't know why. I'm just
I'm
saying.
not sure you can and still keep your lot frontage.
Really?
But why is it not permitted? That just makes all those houses out there
Is it
non-compliant.
where the gas station is?
Because that is
No, it's
where
Young
we
Drive.
want our business district to expand to,
Do it.
along 108.
I think
Coe's Corner.
That would be, that's my interpretation of the table of uses.
But Coe's Corner,
Well,
Don't you
I think
think-
the interesting part, it has senior housing
Drive?
permitted, so I don't, if you
Where
have
is it?
senior housing
Yeah.
permitted,
Yeah.
it's Young Drive.
Yeah.
It's Coe's Corner is all residential properties.
I mean,
Some
my-
It's
apartments.
student housing on the other side of 108.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think that area.
So, all right.
Go ahead.
Putting on my black tinted glasses, back at the time when this was changed, all the single-family residences and duplexes in Coast Corner had moved to 80% student housing.
Yeah.
Why build more if it was just going to go to students? That's,
Well,
that's why it's
probably
an
the
X.
mentality.
So that comes back to my argument, first of all, we don't have that
But
much.
it makes a better area for more denser housing than
Yeah.
single family.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that we don't have that much land there. The Young Drive now, it's converting into duplexes anyway. I think we don't want single-family houses there because why not try to use the density? It's on sewer and water, why not try to use the density?
It's on sewer, water,
I
and,
think the only thing I would add in there, and
and
that
really good bus connections, actually, for that. That's one of the best areas for, with in terms to buses leaving town, coming in and out of town. That is like the sweet spot for being able to catch a bus to Dover or Portsmouth.
For sure. Would you allow, to that point, because now we've put, you don't allow single family there, would you allow lodging houses to be there?
We have one there.
those anyway.
Right now, we don't allow them anywhere.
Would you,
If
I
it
hear
were,
you, but.
I mean, I'd be happy, I mean, I don't see a difference between, I mean, to my mind, multi-unit, lodging house, all goes together.
So yes, it would seem to me that that area is likely that you would want to
Then it
allow
also
conversion of a
just
single-family
go-
house into a lodging house.
That's not-
Because there's a lot of student housing there anyway. I mean, we do have, what's the neighborhood before Young Drive?
That's Route 4.
Bayview?
Bayview. I mean, they may be nervous about it, but I would think the problem you have with the lodging house is that the minute you allow the lodging house, then it's not going to be a single-family house because if you can throw a sprinkler in there and put 7 people in there at $900 a month, no family can compete with that. But it's already student housing anyway.
Yeah, I would
I don't-
suggest not using the term lodging house, because our zoning, it's either single family or multifamily.
But I think like, so if we're talking about student housing at this point, which has just been passed and defined in certain areas,
Yeah.
and I would not want to expand that, that's my opinion.
Okay. Would you allow lodging, so no on lodging houses at all?
No, just, well,
We
I
don't
think
use
we
that
should have
term.
just changed it to lodging
don't
house.
use
We should
that-
have had it as lodging house to start with, but,
We will fix that in the
Please
next
fix
couple of
that.
months.
right.
Yes.
But we had defined those in certain,
We will fix it before the summer's over.
Cool.
but I still
Yeah.
think it
So
would be
something-
better
will
just to
student
leave it
housing
in
become
the
lodging?
zones that we currently have it in as approved.
Okay.
So
Last-
student
last
housing,
month.
by definition, is triggered by the sprinkler requirement. So if you trigger the sprinkler requirement right now in a single-family house, and it has just students, it is defined as student housing, and we allow that in 3 zones.
Is this green here Coast Corner? All this kind of blue?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, Coast Corner, residence, single family, permitted or not?
Well, I think if you allow it with senior housing, and we say it's permitted with seniors to have a single.
It's permitted with
single family.
seniors,
She's got it.
but is it permitted a residence, single family? And
No.
but it's already full, all of that is, everything there is multifamily, because there's apartment buildings on the bottom side of it.
But not the
This is
land next to
all-
the 4.
There are also there are duplexes here, and single family, there are duplexes in this area. And this is the apartment buildings, the student housing there, and there's a couple of condexes there.
Those, no, I think you're further down the road.
Yeah, the purple right at,
Purple is where there's a big yellow student housing.
Yeah.
So you see the Route 4 intersection? That shade of aqua
Yeah, Aqua.
is Coast Corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this Coast Corner?
That is Coast Corner.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So this here are.
So that's Young Drive.
This is all Young Drive. These are all duplexes. So, and up this way, we have some, there's like a,
So,
It's that yellow
There's the
the
house.
hotel, like it's like a.
right, and there
inn.
is a house there. This is a single family
That's a bed and
home.
breakfast.
And on the opposite side, those are single-family homes
Those
on
are
the little
single-family
squares.
When you
But there's
say,
a huge,
I'm still confused. I'm not, aqua, yeah, the light blue, that's Coast Corner?
Yeah.
There's
Close
two
call.
different shades of light blue up there. It doesn't show up
Not
well on
this.
film, but if you look at a piece of paper,
Yeah.
they're definitely two distinct.
Not
I think
this.
they're fine for
So
single
you're
family.
looking at all the blue that doesn't touch the water.
Yeah.
But
It's-
it does go down to the water a little bit.
Yeah, there's
that
that
one
one
little
little
piece.
This
spot.
You
piece
got an
right
odd
here.
lot there,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know
So,
why they had it.
I
Which
guess,
is weird,
No,
'cause
so
they're,
no to single-family house.
oh,
No.
okay, but we are, all right. But
Going
we have,
So what do you want to put there, just duplexes?
I would do, yeah.
okay, then we
Sure,
need to
front
make
lot.
duplex residence permitted. You want to keep no for, I would debate that, but, you know, whatever. That's fine. We can do that. It's not a mountain I'm going to choose to die on. There's too many more left for that.
Too many more mountains.
I want to buy that little spot that comes down to the river
You
I
go ahead
think
and you
it's
do
all
that.
and develop the heck out of it.
yeah, you can't do anything with it.
No?
You can't.
So there's no shore frontage requirement in Coe's Corner?
Requirement, or you mean
Well,
conditions?
let's,
Which is interesting, because I don't know whether that means you can do anything you want, or whether you can't build on it at all.
I get, we don't know how big it is.
I mean, to your point though,
Anyway.
Sally, it's like, I don't think that in that Coe's Corner, the highest, best use of the land is a
Single-family
single-family home.
Okay.
It's definitely not. I think, Young Drive, you're already seeing it, they're doing it in a duplex. I mean, to be completely candid, Young Drive would have been, rather than those duplexes, a
So-
fourplex would have been great.
yeah.
The other thing with regards to why those went X's originally, Office Research also went X. Basically, everything on 108 going towards Dover went
Yeah.
into an X when it came to single-family homes. Now, one of the things we talked about last time was to bring Office Research back into P, since there are still so many existing single-family homes there.
Yes.
Yeah,
But at
let's,
some point, we have to decide where the line is as we're leaving town, where we don't want to keep building more single-family homes, because it doesn't make sense.
all right.
Right.
So on,
And I
the-
think Route 4 is a reasonable place for that.
yeah, and it's reasonable to have, but it's reasonable to have multi-unit at that point. So going across on residence, single family, so we're gonna keep it Coast Corner X, all the, what is there. Now into the research industry zones. We
All right, so
have,
OR, sorry. So
OR,
you said P last
we
time.
had P last time. OR, let's see if I can find the map.
And last time, I think you went all the way across, and you wanted to leave Moodor as CU.
Let's look at our, all right, so OR is that green one, right here, and that's 108.
Yeah,
This is where Riverwoods is,
yep.
and that's 108. And there's a lot of single-family homes there already.
Some of which have converted into other things.
Yeah,
But there's also large enough lots there where you could do a pocket neighborhood.
you could do single-family homes there,
Yeah, I mean, if
and they're
you,
already there.
that's, I think, why we said it should be.
And that could, I mean, you could still do the office research stuff there, but you could put, I don't know, what do people think? And then Moodor is this big, that's gonna all be, this is mostly all the edge
So,
stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all UNH owned.
Edge is
Of course,
Orly.
Orly. Oh, this is Orly.
But it looks like there is a section of Moodor on
So,
the southerly side.
Another thing to, and Michael's going to hate me for saying this, Orly's screwed up. I would say, no.
Well,
The reason I say that is, every time we take a look, the planning board's looked at the overlay districts, the edge, where do we create the planning unit develop, where these things are. There's a piece of Orly, which, zoom out, can you zoom out from that?
Make it smaller?
No. I want to see the west side of town,
I don't think it's,
over on the lee border. All right,
It's
so
missing.
you see how Orly swings down all the way to Mill Road?
yeah,
That's stupid. That rural should be coming up into there, into that lower section, and Orly should only be like a touch attached to Mast Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because every
Yeah,
time
why
you
was
take a
that?
look at
Like-
what should we be doing with Orly? Oh, we should be doing these big dense things. Really? You're gonna stick the big dense things next to the Oyster River Forest? Right? You got that Packers Falls Road coming back in from Lee. That area should be rural, not Orly. Because how is that, anybody does something that's Orly related down in that area, they're either coming in and out of Mill Road or they're going out Packers Falls. Neither one of them makes sense. So that section of the zone should be absorbed down to rural.
Yeah,
And that's
that-
another thing that I think we need to do this year,
You can do that.
as a
planning
small
board.
little thing.
So you're gonna cut the zone.
I want to cut the zone and that will make so much of this discussion about what do we do with Orly
It
easier
would
to
protect-
deal with.
it would protect all
Because right
that.
now, we're having to manually redefine what's, and subdivide Orly, what we say, plan unit divert, over everything except this area that we don't want, that we
Yeah.
really.
So you're saying from Mast Road down to Mill?
From here,
That's Mast,
down.
right?
Yeah, so this is Mass Road,
Yeah.
so I'm saying keep this, if it's a touchy Mass Road, keep it in Orly, and everything down here down goes to rural.
Yeah.
Yeah,
makes sense.
That makes sense.
yeah, that makes sense.
We'll let you do that at planning board.
I don't think, you know, you
section
could put that through on one of those short
It's Orly
modifications.
right now, so you
Yeah.
could.
And it wouldn't, nobody would object
Office
to that.
research.
No,
Yeah.
that's an easy one.
Is
Yeah.
that where the TC Farm is?
TC Farm is up on Mass Road,
Yeah, it's up around
so that would
here.
still be
can't
in
remember
Is
Orly.
where.
that part of
Yeah, we
Orly?
need like the blown out.
That would stay, that would
Actually, it's
still
over
be in
here.
Orly.
It's right here.
Actually, where move the arrow over to the left one thing, I think that's TC Farm.
Is this Tetchy's,
You're
TC's?
talking about this down here, right?
That is, oh, that's the College Woods.
Yeah, but I mean, again, your cut is in essence, wait a second.
Everything to the west of that and
It's
down.
this, right here. You're trying to say you don't want.
No.
No.
Here, look at the one on the screen, it's easier for us all.
Or this.
Ow,
I'm
ow.
like trying to do.
So you're-
Use this one.
He's trying to do it to the old map, so I
I'm
was
gonna
like,
do it to the old map
To the
that's
old-
up here. So
Oh, why
that
would you?
is
Orly is
like-
all the way over to the left.
You're,
that thing
no.
has,
Going
fa- you
left.
know,
I'll go the other way.
Keep
right?
going left.
that thing is
Go
faded.
up.
We actually need a
Go up.
Yes, okay,
So this, here down would get attached to this.
okay.
So take that, 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like 5 parcels.
Yeah,
They're completely off
Push it
screen.
down.
okay.
They're looking at the old map, if anybody's
I know.
watching.
If I'm confused, somebody else will.
Yeah.
All right.
Good point.
So we can move on from that, and that would, I think that's something to obviously bring up planning board. So do we want to make single-family homes, that was a, I gotta find it again.
TC's in Orly.
Yeah.
We originally suggested that
vulnerable.
single-family homes be
See you on that.
You said for Orly,
permitted.
but only as a conservation subdivision or attainable housing, which that makes sense. That's what you said last month, or 2 weeks ago.
Okay, but,
For Orly.
well, single-family home?
Yeah, for
Permitted.
single family for Orly, 2 weeks ago, you said P, but only as part of a conservation subdivision or attainable
How-
housing project.
Okay, how do we note that?
Oh, I'll just put a note, and then a
A
footnote.
little bit, so, did people understand what he just said? Explain what you just said. And then do people think
So
about it?
the idea is, I think when you talked about it 2 weeks ago, you didn't want to see like carving up an individual single family here or there on a lot. But if it was a bigger project that could be carefully designed with open space and a buffer, that would be okay. So you said P, but only if it's part of a conservation subdivision or attainable housing project, which will have a buffer and open space.
Could you explain in the King's English the area we're talking about? Because the maps, the maps with the roads that get, so this is going down Mast Road to the west. We pass through the university or whatever, that little project. And then we come to TC's.
Yeah, it's all the orangish,
The orangish stuff.
on the
This
west
orange,
side.
this stuff here. See where the, can you see where my little
So
arrow is
the-
moving?
The district we're talking about is everything north and west of the university.
I would say they.
North of Mill Road, Packers Falls Road, all the way around the border of town till you get to 108.
So Orly, so is
All of this,
TC, so where is that housing, the student housing?
it's
Oh, the
up here.
lodges?
On Mass Road?
That's
yeah.
that
Yeah,
piece
right
that doesn't
there.
have all this cross-hatching on it.
Further up.
It's this stuff right
Oh,
here.
okay, but it starts there?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you go, there's a great fuss about having to put in a buffer from that to the scenic rural agricultural thing. And that would be where the Orly is, right? So now
Yeah.
we want to put office research in that area.
We already have office research. That's
Right,
what it
but
is.
So everybody was very upset about disturbing the rural character
So
of
you can
that
put
part
an
of
office
town
research.
by having a
Right.
lot of development beyond, yeah, and it was, I mean, and the other side is very rural, and it goes right into the Oyster River Conservation Area.
So if you have this,
So I'm thinking, I don't want that corn is so good.
The what?
The corn is so good.
you don't want to lose the corn.
How did, so the
so-
workforce housing overlay already tells us what part of Orly can be used for attainable
Yeah,
housing.
Yes.
it's up
So why would we
here.
also put,
It's like up
why would we
here.
also allow for multi-unit?
Well, actually, I'm not sure you're making this point, but we cannot include attainable housing because the overlay district does not allow single-family. So it would actually only be part of a conservation subdivision.
Yeah.
Okay, so conservation subdivision.
And that
Which you
would
guys want to
include,
redo anyway.
Eileen, I'm not sure, but I think you were making a
Yeah.
different point.
Yeah, what
It
you-
was, so you're saying do an asterisk and say that like only if it's part of attainable housing. I thought we already broke up, with the overlay, we already broke up Orly into what areas we were comfortable with.
Yes.
Housing
Yeah.
development.
We broke up where there could be
Right, but
attainable.
that, right now, that's rentals only. The current
This one
attainable
is,
house, we don't have, eventually, until we redo the conservation subdivision ordinance, we won't have a home ownership, a viable home ownership model.
Yeah, because he's right, the overlay that we just did only allowed rental units, so permitted, so
Right.
single families, unless
Aren't allowed.
unless you're renting the single family house, it is not permitted.
yeah, and you wouldn't be doing, so we're looking right now to, should we allow residents, single family, so one house be built on a piece of property in the OR? And we're said, yes, but only as a conservation subdivision, meaning somebody's gonna
And-
buy the
and-
land, they're gonna divvy it up, and then they're gonna put a bunch of houses there.
And the reason for that is, and you can't, you should
You
scroll up.
have some
But if you
already.
look, all those lots are pretty huge.
Yeah,
I mean, especially when you go up to the sections above Route 4. All right, all those lots are 10, 15, 20 acres or more, or bigger.
Yeah, like all this
right?
tan
I mean,
is, this is
So it makes
huge.
no sense to put a single-family house on something that
No.
large.
no.
But it does make sense for somebody to develop it and
But
as,
to
for
put a pocket
housing
neighborhood on
development.
one of those things, sure.
Is that close to sewer
is
and water
Route
too?
4?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause you go up to
You
Tech-
definitely
Right.
want more density out
You
there.
have,
Yeah.
does Tech Drive have both or just water?
Water and
both.
sewer.
Yeah, so you have both.
Yeah, so you want, that's primo
so
place
this
for.
zone goes
Density.
up.
If you're going to
density.
build two
And
purchase
clusters.
homes, if you're going to, like, say something like the
What's
Sophie
this?
Banner situation or something like that, and we should probably make duplexes when we get to that. If we allow single-family homes there, we're gonna have to allow duplexes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that could be part of the conservation.
Because that could be part of
subdivision
the,
as
of the
well.
development and to make some more attainably
No, sorry.
priced homes.
But you got, I mean, in that
So we're
respect, that's
talking
why I
about
mentioned
these
it, because Paul already mentioned when you did conservation subdivisions, you're kind of, since it's gonna have to go into conservation subdivision, what that mix or what you're doing in that conservation cluster, I think when you guys define what conservation subdivisions, then you
My
can,
current intent is to say, this list of things plus whatever the underlying zone allows.
yeah.
So what will be allowed on my cornfields?
The cornfields are.
What is
will be-
already
Well-
allowed on your cornfields is a workforce housing development.
You're gonna
No,
hear
no,
from
no.
Beth
But
Olshansky
would
about
it,
this.
no, no, no.
Already done.
Oh, that one's already.
You can, the thing about it though is
Is
like,
that- is
by
that
the
where-
way that he's
Overlay
trying to
district.
talk about it,
Overlay
he's
district.
trying to
Is this
conserve
down here? Yeah,
most
overlay
of
doesn't
your
include TCs.
cornfield and have a tighter cluster. So
Pretty sure
there'll
the
be
overlay
most of it would be
included
open
TCs.
space.
I-
but
but you
have
just
a
said you're
cluster.
gonna
You and I
No, it's
know
on the
that's
other side.
not what it's gonna look like. It's not gonna look like a rural area with a subdivision in the middle of it. No
Well-
matter how much land they preserve in back of it.
Well,
right?
what they can build there now, yeah, get the exacts, I thought the overlay was over here. And there may be a piece over
A little
there.
bit below
Yeah.
It's everything
Route 4.
Anyways,
East of TC's.
so where is TC's here?
It's the
So-
crosshatch
So
area.
Judith, I just want to make,
Is
you're
that
going, you're telling
TCs or-
TCs they can't do
Yeah.
anything they want with their land. You're going to tell them they can't sell their
I'm
farm.
map over there, I'm like
Yeah.
losing my bearings.
Well, if they put a conservation easement on it, they can sell their land, it can be used.
See, that's,
No, that's real. That's
Yeah,
real.
they can't, hold on, we're just getting complete, let's
Yeah,
just,
let's just
hold
talk.
on,
Keep going.
hold on. So, right now, what is allowed, Michael, what can be built on anything that, because we're only talking about Orly, what can be built right now in Orly?
Senior care
So
Right now.
facility, nursing home.
Yeah, it's all senior housing, any, senior care, nursing
So
home.
housing can be built right now, okay? No changes. Right now, you can put in single-family senior housing, senior duplexes, senior care facility by right, nursing home by right, and,
Actually, see,
child care home by right, institutional uses, a nursery by right.
This actually
So-
doesn't have everything.
These are things that they can do right
This is
now.
a bridge.
Also
Yeah,
woke.
it doesn't give us the whole thing. But it can also, there are also commercial office, so a office research park can be built there right now. Okay? So we need to remember what can be built there right now. So if right now you can build senior housing by conditional use, or you can put a senior care facility
or you could
there.
put the 121 Technology Drive, a version of that right there.
So we could put another Riverview on my
I
cornfields.
could put an industrial park there.
But you could also put an industrial park there.
You could
That's how
do-
it's zoned. You could pave that, you could pave Tetchy's completely and put in an industrial zone. That is what they could do tomorrow if somebody bought the land.
We gotta do something about that.
Yeah,
But,
why is it in Orly?
what we're
We
saying,
fought like crazy when they put in that.
we
This has
understand, but
been there for as long as I've been in
Always-
town.
No, I'm talking about that new development for
Yeah.
the students, right?
The
Across
students,
from TC. We fought like
You mean
crazy.
more fields or
to
lodges?
get-
The
right,
lodges.
the
to-
lodges.
To get a buffer, a visible,
Right,
so that we
right.
wouldn't have to spoil the rural character
Right.
of that road by
But-
seeing that thing.
The-
Now we're talking
But
about,
the thing that you failed at
melting.
that time, the thing that you failed at that time to take into consideration was what it already was zoned for, office research, meaning an office facility could be put there. They're trying to preserve rural character in an area that has been slotted for commercial use. It just so happens that right now it's being used for rural use because of the farms. But that's not what the town decided it should be used for years ago. It put it right smack dab in the middle of a commercial area. So that's what people need to understand is that, so what you can do right now is office research, a facility. But what we're saying is perhaps we should allow, because somebody may, want to develop it for a conservation subdivision and put in homes where we would have more option to create buffering and a look and have a softer, demeanor toward the road, so to speak, than an office research. Because
Can I just intersect?
This
But we
is the
also,
thing.
but Paul also just suggested that whole section, this direction would be rural.
yeah.
we would keep all
So-
this rural.
yeah, that's what the master plans envisioned,
It's not what it is now. We have to
No.
make that change.
yeah.
Because right
I thi-
now, where my arrow is right now, that's office research. Again, office research means a not rural, means pave Paradise and put up a parking lot.
So
We can have
so
a factory process
we're
your
only
corn.
making it worse. But this is right, I get telephone calls from conservation people who know I'm on the housing thing and very dedicated to getting affordable housing. And they say, don't let this drive to provide for something really good, the affordable housing, to take away the rural character and the conservation character of the town and the conservation initiatives that is important for conservation.
That's why putting it in the conservation subdivision limitation makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then when it does go, or if it does go to development under the conservation subdivision, you're going to be getting 50, 60, keeping half or more of that land open.
Have
It's
you
the best
seen
you can have.
the one on Carriageway?
I don't care about that.
Oh, for
I don't
heck-
care what's been built
That's
because
what
the
we're
new
go- that's
conservation
a
subdivision won't
conservation.
allow that, most of that.
Yeah, but we can't, yeah, we have to look at what we have now, or
That's
what we
what it
want to
looks
change
like.
conservation subdivision to.
So
Because,
Carriageway is, I'm trying to remember what road that is.
Off of Packers
That's
Falls.
Packard Falls going.
Oh, that's
towards,
that, okay, yeah,
Newmarket.
that's the
And that's
pork
a
chop
co-
subdivision down
No,
just
no,
Well,
south
that's
of
a
it is, there was a
conservation.
conservation subdivision.
It is a
I don't know if it would be
conservation
approved the same way now.
yeah, we will be looking at our conservation subdivision rules and making
Yeah,
them
we're
more.
actually
like even-
increasing the density.
Even the attainable housing actually preserved more land than our conservation subdivision.
I mean, to your point
Rules
though,
right
like
now.
right now, what Sally's saying is what you think is a protection for your
Isn't.
is not.
Isn't.
And what he's saying is that if you, by fixing the conservation subdivision, you're adding more protection to those rural areas than would be
Yeah.
existing now.
But it's not really. If you put in a bunch of houses, right, visually, you've got a road with a bunch of houses. From a wildlife point of view, you've interrupted the habitat. You may or may not preserve the water quality. It's not doing what a piece of conservation land does.
Well, that.
So I don't
the-
think we
the-
should fool ourselves into thinking that.
But we are fooling ourselves, because Orly, today, somebody could make an offer to any of those property owners that own that land, and they have the right to sell it.
Oh, absolutely.
And what they can put there right now is a office research park,
And that would be by right.
office building
By
by
right.
right.
By right.
By right, no consideration for wildlife corridors, no, by right. That's what they can do right now. And I think what we're fooling ourselves, and this is important for people to understand, where we are fooling ourselves is looking at what is there now, thinking that is what we're protecting. Yes, but that just happens to be undeveloped land, and how it
That's
can.
why it was pounced
Right,
on.
well, but we can't get into if they put in conservation. We have, the town says that undeveloped land can be developed only right now as a technical research park. And with the UNH bringing stuff in, and we need to think of this, with UNH bringing stuff in with the edge, it could be a time where somebody's starting to look at this property and say this to be, all right.
Absolutely.
So we are not protecting that land by saying no houses. We're actually giving some of that land an opportunity when we're looking at a conservation subdivision, we are going to be looking at wildlife corridors, and we are looking at buffers, and we are looking at density, and we are looking at open space.
So Sally, what you're saying is you're agreeing with me that it would be better for us to change that zone
Yes.
into one that requires a conservation subdivision from what it now is.
I'm saying that we should allow single-family homes to be allowed in there, and that single-family homes be only built as a conservation subdivision. Whether or not we were to ever change it from Orly to something else, but we're talking about right now to allow single-family housing is the thing that people are building. That is because that is what is in need, and that is what states are saying we need you to do. So this is the opportunity for people to get out there that are going to be developing developers are developing single-family homes and multifamily homes, because that's what's selling right now.
And no matter how it's zoned, if the owner of that property wants to put it in conservation,
They
none of
can.
what we do
Yeah,
here
totally.
stops
They can
them.
still do
That's
that.
what I
They can do
just
all
said.
that.
The only way to protect it, like, I guess if you had a vision, it's always going to remain a cornfield. The only way you could fully guarantee that was
Put it
if
in
somebody buys
conservation.
it and puts it in conservation. But
then
somebody's
they
going to
can
have to
do
buy
it,
it to
and
do
it-
that.
Yeah, TC could put a conservation on,
Yeah.
and he would get paid full market value.
Right.
So he can bargain against developers and then retain it as farmland.
Yes.
And you can do that, yeah.
Yeah,
Even
he's
if
got
we-
that right.
Even if we make single-family housing permitted as a part of a conservation subdivision in Orly, any property owner can still do that. But what we're saying is, as a property owner, you can put it in conservation, you can sell it to a developer to build a business park, or you can sell it to a developer to build a cluster of homes, taking into consideration the conservation measures that we will require you to put in.
Yeah, I'd be curious to talk to TC and say, what do you think is the long-term? Maybe,
Well,
he
you know,
had, maybe he just doesn't have a clue what all this is about.
well, either way, we have to decide what our zoning is.
Yeah.
And that, in adding permitted,
Is actually going to make
Affects-
his land worth more?
it
Yeah.
actually.
Which means if he does go to put it into conservation.
He gets paid more
Exactly.
by conservation.
And-
if it's
and
worth-
So there's no downside to it
No.
from his point of view.
Yeah.
It puts more options on the table for him.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
it be, the land be more valuable if it were put into professional, commercial use than if it were put into single family?
Depends on the markets, and right
That's
now
all
the
right.
markets for commercial use are going down and the residential uses are going up.
Because
Price per acre
there's-
is more for
But that's,
housing than for
it also
industrial
depends on
park.
which decade you plan on selling it.
Yeah.
And we have to look at zoning
Right.
now based on what's happening now, and knowing that, and in 10, 20 years, there may be another group here sitting, planning board, say we need to tweak it. You have to relook at zonings every once in a while and decide what's gonna be,
Right.
what's logical to the conditions on the ground now.
I think it's time for me to step away from being a burr under your saddle.
Oh, yeah. Well,
But, I mean, this conversation is one that needed to happen. But I'm thinking maybe we need another zone where it would be land that would, the preferred use would be for conservation. Maybe the conservation, or put other conditions on the conservation subdivision where it has to be, can't be 50 feet from the road and not, and still be a conservation.
That's a discussion for some other group.
Well, we're looking at it now, the setbacks. for
looking-
the-
We're looking at the focus of housing.
Housing.
What can we do to help fix housing in
Yeah.
town?
Right.
Yeah.
But when,
And not how do we, I mean, that's a planning board or a town council call.
But we already have that anyway, right? How far from the road is it right now?
well, we have our conservation
That's not what she's
subdivision.
talking about. She's talking about a
Creating
zone
a little
that we
zone.
create that's primarily focused on.
Yeah, I saw that part, but
you
then she
can,
moved on
I
to
can
saying
be
that
easily
conservation-
talked out of that.
Well, I think that.
Went on to say that-
Let's get
We
back
need
on
to.
focus.
Let's
we need
get
to-
back on-
Yeah, we
we
need to
can
focus
have-
on housing and so how, do people agree or disagree? Single-family home, single-family residence permitted as a conservation subdivision in OR?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. How about mixed use and office research, which is MUDOR, which is this purple
Mood-
stuff,
Which doesn't matter.
which
I
doesn't
mean,
matter because it's going to be,
It's,
It's
so
all
that's
owned by
all
Green.
UNH owned.
Yeah.
So-
So we can throw any number in there, it's not worth arguing about.
we could just put P anyways.
Unless they sell it.
Let's just keep that P, and they can, and we'll see.
They're like broke.
Yep.
Because it would be, P is conservation subdivision.
Those are their research firms, I'm not sure they can.
One building.
I just want to respond to Judith's question.
Riverwoods and.
Yeah, because the
Oh,
That's
Judith?
just,
for it.
yeah, let's just,
She just asked about a streetscape buffer. Judith, you asked about a streetscape buffer. In our existing conservation subdivision, a vegetated buffer strip shall be maintained along any public street existing as of July 1st, 2003, that is adjacent to the subdivision to minimize visual impact on the streetscape. the depth shall be at least 3 times the minimum for the district, or 100 feet, whichever is greater. So it's 100 feet.
So,
But then it says, this shall be reduced to 25 feet for individual lots that front on public.
stupid point. The article said maintained. The existing vegetation buffer is a cornfield. So we're going to maintain that cornfield for 100 feet?
No, it's when you create it that you.
No, it says maintain.
No, we
Creating
do
a
not.
buffer,
It's,
right? You're
the
creating
wording,
a buffer
the
when
wording of
you-
that
Yeah,
is difficult.
Let's get off this because we need to just get through this.
Okay.
Mood or should we allow single family? Is it right now, it used to be conditional use, should it be permitted? If it was gonna be conditional use, but we were allowed it before, should it remain conditional use or permitted? Mood or, right here.
I don't care. Just leave it as is.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, we're suggesting P.
Durham
Yes.
Business Park, you got one lot. I don't care. Make whatever you want.
Why don't we just make that P?
Yeah.
And,
So is Moodor CU or P?
Mood or, let's take P. And office research, light
So in Durham
industry.
Business Park,
P.
So let's, how about we make all of them the same?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right? They're all P under a conservation subdivision.
Yeah.
but there's no, there's room for a conservation subdivision in Orley, but not in any of the other zones there.
Moodor, yes.
Well, not if you take out UNH land.
Well, as Al say,
Well, it used
if
to be
UNH were to
conditional
sell
use.
a portion of Moodor, then it would be.
and it was already conditional use.
And the Durham Business Park, I'm not sure how big that lot is.
Oh, no, there's
I thought we
there's
had
very
5
little
acre
land
lot.
left
There's
at
not
much
the
built.
Business
Oh, really?
Park.
You want to just keep,
Then just leave it as P, because that's what it,
it's,
All right, so you want to make the Business Park P?
yeah.
Where is that?
Because that's the end
the
of.
business
Is that
park
Harmony
is
Homes?
Harmony Homes. There's no land there.
There's just a little bit of extra land,
Yeah,
there's not
yeah.
much.
Most of that's wetland, right?
We could even just say.
There's like one or two
Well,
other lots.
I believe the only piece that isn't developed is also owned by UNH, which is
Yeah.
the other reason why I don't really care.
Because,
And it
Well-
abuts on Route 4.
Yeah.
And maybe comes into the end of Old Piscataqua Road. I'm
so
not sure.
you're looking,
Just barely.
I mean, yeah, we could make it,
After 40 years.
we had it as CU, which we're trying to get rid of CUs.
Just
It's
do
either
P.
Ps, okay. Do you want, Orly is CU or P or X? P? Everything P?
Didn't someone tell us at one point that the CUs are not helping?
The CUs are not at
They're
all
not
helpful.
And CUs for a single-family house makes no sense at all.
It won't happen.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be for the intent for a subdivision.
All of those Ps, so we're saying this line is all going to be Ps under conservation subdivision rules only.
Yeah.
It's too bad we can't.
Well,
have
it would be
PC.
P for
Why don't we just do
Moodor and
PC?
Orley
Durham
as
Business
conservation
Park.
subdivision.
Okay, so what's?
Durham Business Park.
OR.
Well, I mean,
What do we have?
yeah, let's do that.
What?
Because I think under the new conservation subdivision, that might allow 2 or 3 houses on that Durham Business Park piece of land owned by UNH as opposed to just one.
So do you want to make Durham Business Park P or P conservation subdivision?
P conservation subdivision.
P conservation, and Orly is P.
Oh, but Orley should just be P because there's a lot of single family on there. You don't want to make them they're already non-conforming.
There you go.
Yep.
It's pretty
Make it
easy.
P. And OR is,
Going to P.
Is
So
going to
yeah,
P.
under, the only thing you're changing now is all 4 of them under
P.
the 4 research industry are P, and all of those are only conservation subdivision except for OR 108.
okay, so it doesn't need, oh, right.
So Mudar is also conservation subdivision,
Yes.
Right.
Hold on, OR
and
On Route
Durham
108.
Pip-
is not as conservation.
No, you
There's
don't
too
want
many
to.
small
There's a lot of
lots on
small
OR.
existing single family there.
Okay,
But
so-
then
The other
three-
zones have larger lot sizes.
So the other 3 then would all be P with conservation.
Conservation subdivision.
okay. All right, so now let's go down at residence duplex, and I would say we should, if we're permitting single-family home, it should be permitting residence duplex. The whole Xing of residence duplex is an outdated thought for fear of it being turned into,
Young Drive.
Student housing.
yeah, student housing.
housing.
And I think that we actually, Young Jive is a very good example of how that has changed over. And yes, there is some, but the conditions on the ground, we have more than enough student housing now, and it doesn't look like we're going to need, going forward, any more than we already
I
have.
mean, it won't be built.
So for duplex in the 4 residential zones,
I would
do you want to make
say-
that CU or P?
I would make that P.
I would definitely make it P.
Do you
P.
All
think
right,
the-
but
do you think
Al
the
said at
state's
the
gonna-
2 weeks ago, we should look at form-based codes for duplexes, which I
Well,
think is a good idea.
let's-
I
just-
totally agree. I totally
First of
agree.
all, before we get into that, let's just say, where's it going to be P, before we get into anything?
For sure, I think residence B, definitely do P.
Okay, residents,
Well, all 4 residential zones.
Yeah. I
all
think
4 residential, P, 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 P. Because in a conservation subdivision, even in rural, they could put duplexes.
So if we really want to make our life simple, duplexes should probably just mimic whatever we decided for single family.
Yeah.
For sure, for
Okay,
sure.
that's,
Because odds are the state's going to tie our hands on that one anyway.
yeah.
Yes.
All right, so that would
So
be.
rather than
P.
argue it out, let's just do it.
So, all right, so that would just the same as single
Honest
family
about
for duplex,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah,
across
I mean,
the
I
board.
think the state is.
And same
We're
conditions
gonna come
in
back
those other
next
areas.
session with that,
Right.
for sure.
So
Um,
by and large, isn't the senior housings that we see, the multi-unit, essentially the same as a senior care facility? If we get a senior care facility, it
Not
probably
necessarily.
We have
will
3
be
Necessarily.
multi-unit.
4 senior care
The
facilities.
senior care facility is more like Harmony Homes.
Harmony
but
Homes
senior
and-
housing could be the Riverwoods residential, or,
Brookline,
So-
Brookline has a
Brookdale.
component of that, or
So-
or even
Brookdale.
The one-
church.
Yep.
If I mean, Brookdale and Riverwoods are both,
Mm-hmm.
and Harmony Homes is senior care only.
And the one at the end of Mill Road.
That's
That's
Brookdale.
Brookdale.
That's, yeah.
Oh, it's
It has
Brookdale.
both, so
That's
it
the name
has-
they're calling it now.
It wasn't
It's called
Meredith,
Brookdale.
wasn't it? before?
I don't know, I just know what it was since
So
2014.
Brookdale is,
Homes and a senior
Homes
care
and senior
facility.
care.
right.
And they have
So that would
duplexes
be,
and,
isn't that a senior care facility, whether it's divided into individual homes?
It's both.
It's both.
But,
The big house
It
at
has
Brookdale,
to, in order for it to be built, it has to be permitted, both of those purposes have to be allowed.
so
In
when
the
we're
zone.
deciding a zone for it,
Well, we're
we
not-
take that into consideration, right?
Yeah,
That it's
but-
going to be both.
well, let's get there.
All right, but while we're on duplex, Al suggested some basic form-based things for duplexes, and I think that's important in the rural, in the residential zones, because duplexes can be quite unattractive, and
Yeah. Oh,
people, if you have a duplex, 1 story with big garages in the middle and a bunch of driveways, the people in, especially RA and RB, are not going to be happy about it. But you can
I
have a
walk
couple
by them,
basic rules.
I walk by those areas at least twice a week, and
And,
they're,
and I think
and they're
it's.
very nice.
I think
Well,
it's important for
I
us
think
to.
with form-based
Just
code,
because-
though, we can, I agree with, first of all, when I think of that, I think of Sophie Drive, because the duplexes that are in Sophie Drive look great. They look great.
They look like houses.
Sophie Lane? Those are all
Sophie-
single.
Talk about Fitz
No, they're
Farm.
not.
Wait, so you mean part of Fitz Farm?
I'm talking about in Dover.
Dover,
it's-
Sophie
oh,
Banner.
oh,
I thought you meant
Dover,
Sophie
right,
Lane.
Janelle?
Sophie Banner.
So the duplexes that went in there look great. I can think of no reason why you'd say no to them. They look really good.
Yeah.
It is not that hard, and the reason I like the form-based code is because people freak out, I mean, well, you just did with like what a duplex looks like. And you can make a duplex look really good and not cost a lot more money. And I think it's to everybody's advantage. I think the reason we want to do the form-based code like that is because if you can open people's minds to a duplex
Right.
and making a duplex look good, then it maybe opens the way to a fourplex too. And we need to be able to
Absolutely.
do that to take advantage of density to add affordability. If you're going to say no, no, no to duplexes and only single-family homes. Unless we're making a single-family home that's like 100 square feet,
Absolutely.
we're never gonna get to affordability.
And even bigger than duplex, what is this form-based?
Well, it's, form-based
We're
code
gonna have
is,
to look
form-based
at
code
that.
is not architectural review. It's not details of, the pitch of your gable and X percent of area, frontage being windows. It's usually basic things, like it can be how wide your driveway is, how many driveways you have, does it have to be 2 stories? It can even be
How
things
does it
like
sit on
how
the
your
frontage?
gable, is your gable this way or this way? Where your front door is, where your garage is.
What your front yard looks like, is it a porch? Form-based code makes.
What's it look like?
It makes it so it fits on the lot like your neighbors. And it's like, so if you build, like to his point, he's like, well, I don't want to have like those old ones where it's just like a big garage and a driveway and then there's this small thing. If you make it look kind of like conforming to your neighborhood, then why would you not do it? And it's like you're grabbing the dense, you don't want to do the single family home because a single family home trying to get that at workforce is nearly impossible. But if you can fit a duplex on that same lot, you're at
And an
least getting a
ADU.
shot at it.
A couple of ADUs tossed in there.
Yeah, I mean, so
So-
It's like a really big ADU.
But what I'm thinking, having been on the beleaguered planning board, a dream, a vision is not going to happen unless it's in regulation. So
Right.
then we have to figure out how we write aesthetics into a regulation.
well, that's
It's
form-based
a few
code.
basics, yeah. It
We
would
can
not
do
be,
it.
there would not be any discretion, no discretion. It would be, we'll talk about specifics, but it might be like, there's got to be one curb cut, one driveway. The
Yeah.
driveway cannot exceed, whatever, 15 feet in width. You cannot have a garage, you cannot have a double garage door. You cannot have a garage door. If there's a garage door facing the street, it has to be set back at least 5 feet. No double garage doors facing the street. You could talk about if you want to have a minimum of 2 stories, but you don't have to.
Well-
You could talk about the form of it. Does it have to, is it allowed to be one straight, 1-story shot? Those can be
And the gables?
offensive. Or does it have to have more, so it would be non-discretionary, a few basic rules for the overall design.
How do we get it?
I mean,
How
you
do I
just
get
write,
me one?
you could just be, we can talk about
You
that
can
later.
approve
It's
it.
some
Would
Would
basics.
that be a
Yeah.
CU?
It's just in the zone. No, it would be a
No.
P, but it would be, there'd be a note and, reference. It has to be like those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And and non-discretionary, the building code official.
It's just
could
a basic set
enforce
of
it.
design guidelines, is
It's
what
just,
you're saying.
it's just
Sorry, what?
design guidelines.
It's just a
Well,
simple
it
set of
depends.
design guidelines.
I mean, if it's form-based code, it would be required that you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would, to get the P, you'd have to do the
Yeah.
form-based code.
That is
Yes, I'm
great.
just saying, all form-based code is a set of guidelines that says this is what we want to have everything.
Totally.
Well,
all.
standard, required,
Yeah.
not just
Yeah, that's,
encouraging.
That's
Standards,
beautiful.
yeah.
You're right, you're
It's a
totally right.
standard you have to
Yeah.
build to.
And
Okay.
the beauty of it.
And
Come on,
it-
guys.
So we can do that. So if
So
we
that
have
can be,
to,
Go.
yeah,
we need to look into form-based code, we need something written up, and so we can look at that later.
yeah.
But-
But that would be probably just for the 4 residential. I don't think you
Yeah.
need it for the others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the
I would-
residence multi-unit,
I would be comfortable with a residence multi-unit with this form-based design.
Where?
and that actually is very interesting, and that's a good thought, because on the, I don't know if you had an opportunity to go to Dover and go to Sophie and Banner, the Sophie Banner development. And up at the very top is a multi-unit that is built to look like a bunch of houses.
Can be done.
And that's a really good, example of form-based code, because it basically looks like there's this, they're all multi-unit, but it looks like it's like a big house.
Or one looks like
Yeah.
like a barn, but with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
one looks like
totally
a
fits.
barn.
Absolutely.
but
Well, if we can,
So that is the kind of thing, again, if we're looking at residence multi-unit, where that is going to be a bone of contention for a lot of people. We put CU across here originally, which is useless. You might as well keep it X. Conditional use is too high.
Well, maybe for the multi-unit, it's just too much to try and achieve in the residential area.
I think in
Except for rural,
multi-unit
maybe.
may be kind of silly in A.
Yeah.
Maybe some in B, in C, I just don't know how that's gonna work.
I wouldn't do
think,
Yeah, RC, there'll be a
I
lot of
wouldn't do it.
resistance.
yeah, I think that if we just keep those X's, and then maybe to take them into consideration for our
I'd put them all in the research industry.
our commercial areas, yeah, our research areas.
So you're saying,
Did you have your,
Why aren't we doing duplexes in Coe's Corner? Did we just?
Oh, we should, yeah,
We
we
should.
should, because of
Cross-
Oh,
Young
oh.
Drive,
It's
yeah.
mostly, and then
Oh.
also OR?
oh, right.
Oh,
Well,
From
this is why-
OR all the way across.
that is.
It's all
Okay.
gonna be P.
oh, and you want to do duplexes in Coe's Corner P?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So but that's the only
about
thing different
courthouse?
from single family, is single family does not have, single family not allowed in Coe's Corner.
I would let duplexes go there, why not?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
well, we should, because that's
Yeah,
most of it.
but
All right.
there anyway.
everything else is X.
So single family and duplex is identical across the board, except for Coe's Corner.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the multi-unit, I definitely would not do it in your, I think we'll,
X.
as much as I would really like to see the
It's
planning
not
board
gonna
meeting where
be
you
good.
did that, for entertainment value, I think it would make it really hard.
Well, I think, you're talking about multi-unit in residential zones?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think,
Yes, you can do fourplexes.
so if we allow multi-unit in those zones via the overlay district and via a conservation subdivision, then it'll be okay. But we can basically say X here,
Yeah.
yeah.
right? We say X here, and then the special rules for those two things
Yeah.
allow it under certain situations.
Yes,
Okay, so let's go through each one then, so we're clear. So residence multi-unit, R,
X.
rural, should be what?
X.
X.
X,
Residence A,
X.
X.
residence B.
X.
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 Okay.
Yeah,
All of them.
where?
Oh,
what
all right,
line?
yeah.
What?
Okay,
Wait, this is what line?
It
Residence
is-
multi-unit,
Residence multi-unit.
the third
so
one
in the
down.
residential zones, it would all be X.
Now, how about central business is going to be
P.
permitted?
P,
That is
oh,
P.
no, well, residence multi-unit should stay X, because.
in central.
Yeah,
business.
in central business, because that
We
should be
have a-
mixed use. Well, your proposal
Yes.
already before the
Yeah.
council
Right.
That's right.
is just
X.
PO, Churchill, and Courthouse.
So
Right.
X.
So, central business is X. Okay, so professional office,
Permitted.
P,
P. Churchill,
P,
It's already all multi-unit. pretty
yep,
much.
we are suggesting it be P. Courthouse,
P.
P.
P, yeah.
And Coe's Corner,
Yeah, P.
Why not?
why not?
All right, even though tonight you're suggesting only PO, Churchill, and Courthouse, so, but whatever.
We
We'll see
could-
how it progresses.
I don't know where we would put it.
Well, you might mention tonight if
Coast
people
Court,
want to do
yeah.
it. But one comment, with Churchill, you will get some serious pushback because the old parking lot at whatever that was behind Red Tower, the residents back there will say, so we defeated the parking lot and now you're going to have a big multifamily student housing in there.
But you can already.
By right, so.
But you can already have single family there, multi-unit, as long as you're over 55. So that's the issue there, is you've got a fairness
do
issue
something
there.
about
Yeah,
that.
well, I think they're more concerned about, I think they get that, it could be a big multifamily for senior housing, but I think they probably feel, well, market is unlikely. We don't want, a lot of
We can't have
students there.
Which, by the way, that market is really unlikely when you.
Which
are-
one, senior?
The building a
They're not
multi-
building
They're not, I think the message came really loud and clear from the property owners about student housing is that they have really no appetite to build any more student housing because it's a saturated market and they don't think they can get the
Their
return on
occupancy.
it.
Yeah,
So I
they're
think
done.
that while I appreciate people saying that, times have clearly changed. So why, I don't think that's,
All right, so you don't, I'm just asking, so of the 4 commercial core zones, Churchill is close to Faculty Road, PO has some neighborhoods behind it, courthouse not so much, Coast Corner not so much. But you want all those to be P, you don't want any CUs in there? Because some of the neighbors may prefer a CU.
You know what, I would say
You know,
we're
that's
either
not-
going to allow it or not.
We make the call
Allow it or
here,
not.
we're trying to reduce the use, we go for a P, and it gets to the planning, I mean, you still gotta go through the planning board and through
Yeah.
town council.
Yeah.
So it's, for us to get down into the weeds
No.
on these, it's the wrong place.
Because I think if you're going to want it, if there's going to be resistance, just make it X.
Yeah.
I agree with that. What I'm concerned about is when developers come in here, they're going to say, oh, look at this table of uses, I can't build it there. They're not going to go flipping through to see what the footnotes say. So I think we should put in, if we're thinking that we might want to have a developer come in and us massage what they're doing, that we should make it look more approachable.
But they're going to have, I mean, we can only say it's, with the table, we can say it's allowed or not.
Yeah.
And with all our other standards, if they're going to see that, then they're going to get into the standard.Ey're not going to say, oh, I see it's P, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to, there's going to be a
Well, if
lot
they
of.
see it's P and then they have to look at the
Yeah.
appendix.
Let's keep in mind what we're actually doing here today.
Yeah.
We're not changing the zoning.
No,
We are making suggestions of what the planning board should look at
yeah.
and what the town council should look at. We're not changing the zoning.
We're making
So
suggestions as to.
if we think this is worth a discussion, we should put it in.
Yeah, I would put P because you guys are going to discuss that at the planning board and the town council. You're totally right. It's something that they need to discuss. So, I mean, again, I like the P there just because to your point, when a developer sees a P, then he says, okay, this has the
Good to go.
potential, this could happen.
Right.
To Paul's point, you're still going to have to come in there to the planning board and all that to try to make it a reality. I mean, it could be very well, right now with the student housing market, he's going to say, oh, yeah, I know student housing isn't going to work there, but I think this could. And instead of a hard no, we want them to say, how could you make it work?
Build things for other people.
Yeah, so I would make it a P.
So, right, a P, but if any place you have a P means a developer will most likely be able to do it.
Yeah.
But-
It's much
But
easier to come to
But
the
at
planning
the same
board
time,
and say.
we're not changing the zoning here.
Right.
Yeah, but
We're
it's much
making
easier to come into the
suggestions.
planning board with a P for
'Cause-
any use and say,
Absolutely.
my engineer's here, we can do your stormwater, we
this-
can do your traffic.
this would
As opposed
also-
to a CU,
this-
where there is discretion for the
This
planning
would
board.
also be very strong, that's the kind of thing that would help revitalize the downtown.
Yeah.
It's by having pure residential
Yeah.
in the surrounding
Well, that's
area.
Right, and that's why Sally's
And
presenting
that's
that
why we're
tonight.
suggesting that as permitted. On residential, office research, mixed use, all that, we have a CU here, that should be all Ps.
Well, you said there's only one lot at Durham Business Park. If they could squeeze a multi-unit, why wouldn't you?
Sure.
Why not?
Yeah, no harm
Yeah,
there.
I would leave that
Ps.
with a P.
So,
This is OR.
On the others,
we have CUs, yeah, so P for Durham Business
So I kind
Park.
of like what we did with the P, but as a conservation subdivision.
I think,
You can do that, you
Because
can
I'm thinking- I
multifamily,
think
you could do it
that-
the same
yeah.
I'm
way.
thinking we should do the same thing.
Sure.
I agree.
How about,
for
Because
those,
rather than, in those districts,
We want control of the open space.
yeah,
Right.
And-
we don't want you to necessarily
it,
fill it.
but it would
Yeah,
allow,
I
if
agree.
you have resident single family as part of a conservation subdivision,
And
it
a
could allow
multi-unit,
them
you
also
could
to be a
mix.
multi, so you could have a mix.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
so P-
great.
So I would
So-
just mirror what we just did above with the duplexes,
All of
right?
these
Yes.
Ps,
But with a conservation.
but with conservation, subdivision, what about the OR for conservation
All right,
subdivision?
but not Durham Business Park, not I mean,
Which ones,
Good,
which
it's not
which
much
ones are
land.
gonna
That
be,
that lot is so odd that I
they could
think-
put in a multi-unit.
yeah, I mean,
I
Instead of
think
a
there's
single
only
family
about
home.
one way you can do a
yeah, you
development,
would,
do
yeah.
it in there.
All
I
So
mean,
should it
and
be P?
Plus, you're going
Yeah,
to get
just straight P
shoreline
for
setback
DPs.
and everything else, so. I
Okay,
think
so
So we
that
won't
was
see
okay.
you there?
which ones will be conservation subdivision?
No, it's going to
So
be P, but
Moodor
without
and
the
Orly.
conservation.
Okay,
But, so OR, I mean, they're small. If somebody wants to
Okay.
convert a single family.
Well, there's a
to 3
couple of
units.
large ones, so,
I think that farm.
but yeah,
that-
sorry, I see your point.
There's one large
Um,
acreage over there that she,
So conservation
large lots
subdivisions
there.
has a lot size limit before it can be put into play, right?
Well, with conservation subdivision, there would be the streetscape buffer, open space requirement, a process of
No,
really.
well, my point is though, we could say lots under a certain size is this, lots over a certain size is conservation subdivision.
Isn't that what we already say it has to be, if it's 3 or more, it has to be conservation.
well, again.
Yeah,
that's true.
Do we
Oh.
want to
Yeah.
have, I think at this point, it's like, do we want to allow them there or not?
yeah, and think
in-
about OR.
in
I mean,
specifics.
some,
OR.
most of those are small lots, probably built on with a single family. If somebody, if we allow it by right, they can tear down a single family or
Right.
they
And
can
they might
add
put up a
2
fourplex.
units, fourplex. But there's a few large parcels there. If you make it by conservation subdivision, then they've got to go through a process. There's more review by the board, more open space, more discretion in the layout.
To work against myself, do you think the conservation subdivision is deterring the building of a single-family house?
Big time.
Yes,
Is it?
Big,
Yes.
huge,
Yeah.
huge.
yes,
That's why we don't
We haven't
see
had
high
any.
development.
Revisit.
That's why it needs to be rewritten.
yeah,
But,
I mean, Mike is trying to build
so
one.
is it,
yes.
Paul, is it a
Yes, the
matter
answer is
then
certainly.
of setting up more areas where they can build regular subdivisions?
No,
No.
no,
No,
no.
no,
The
no,
problem with
No,
the
no, no.
current conservation subdivision is if you have a 10-acre lot, I
Density.
ran the numbers just last week with Joe Friedman. If you have a 10-acre lot in RC, which is a rather common thing, you could split it up into 3.5 acre lots right now and get 3 units.
Right.
A conservation subdivision would allow you a bonus of 1 unit.
Yeah?
So you'd be at 4. Well, that's not, I'm going to have to develop half my land, go through for an extra unit. It's not worth doing.
But if you can fit it on that
So
same
the
lot.
solution to that, the solution to that is to allow a greater bonus, but by getting the greater bonus, ensuring you're getting more open space. Bring those things in tighter.
You're getting-
Bring those buildings in tighter.
So by
like
bonus, you
Carriage
mean-
Way has all these big yards around them, right? You don't need big yards.
need big yards.
Shrink those yards down. You could put in twice as many houses there in the same cleared space.
The landowners love it.
No, not new.
Not people who
not
can't
coming-
afford it.
Yeah, and we need to remember, what our generation loved, the generation coming up does not. The millennials and the the Z-Geners do not want large pieces of land, and they do not want large homes because it costs too much. They are fine with small pieces of property. They just have a place to live. And
this is
it's
pathetic.
completely changed. They're not interested in the 5,000 square foot finished basement, attic, cool decked out attic with your 3.5 acres of land. They don't, because it costs so much, number one, to heat it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then to maintain it, and they don't see it. Now, it doesn't mean some don't still want
They,
that,
the ones
but
that live at
most do
home,
not.
they like it. They like the finished basement with a big screen.
But they know they won't
They
be
think
able
it's
to
cool.
afford
it.
They just can't afford it on their own.
Never
And they
afford it.
they like raising kids with a yard.
I mean, my daughter
Well,
loves
they
it.
don't mind
I like-
a smaller
you know,
yard. They don't mind
they
a
just-
smaller
As a
yard.
kid, I liked growing up with other kids.
But you can do that at Carriageway.
Well, when I lived in California, we had a 5-bedroom house built on a 5,000 square
All
foot
right,
lot.
we're getting off
Keep
topic.
going.
A lot of
Okay.
people live like that. You don't need a huge yard.
I think-
Anyways,
do we
Anyway,
just-
do you want, in
that's
OR,
right.
you want to just make
I think we
it
need to
P?
find a way to
Yeah.
generalize this.
to generalize?
Well, you said-
What are we talking about
well,
here?
The idea of a good conservation subdivision provides enough bonus that developers want to develop it, or landowners want to develop it, and from the town's point of view, protects enough open space and natural wildlife habitats to make it, to still keep it viable from an environmental viewpoint.
So my point is, I'm taking up on your point, that nowadays, they don't want any of this,
don't need the
a more spacious lot, a pox on them. And they, so how can we, right now, if you wanted to build a dense residential area, is there-
Durham doesn't allow it.
okay, is
Don't
there
allow
a
it.
place we could allow it? And I think in particular, I'm
always-
fascinated by manufactured
They
housing.
always can
Sure, so we
build a
could-
less dense.
We can make that, so there's a bullet, I'm going to answer her question.
Okay.
So the way to do that is find some areas of town that you want to rezone, right? RB to RA, RC to RA, R to RA. That's how you do that. You want a dense neighborhood, you're going to be taking something that isn't RA and making it RA.
Yeah.
So RA now, tell me what you can do on RA. Can you do something really dense with RA?
No, it
Really
won't.
dense? No, you're stuck right now, until we're done with
That's
this, you're stuck with single-family houses in RA.
Would they
Well,
So
have,
I'm thinking this fits entirely with our mission, was to get cheaper, more affordable
did-
housing. And if we can do that by making parts of town more dense,
Well, we're
That's
gonna
on here.
get to
we
that
just
when
did
we're
it.
looking
We just said
at
allow
dimensions.
We
duplexes in
just
RA.
did.
well, plus,
Yeah.
it's the lot size
Right.
portion though, like right
Yeah,
now
we
for
gotta-
RA,
We gotta get to lot
you have,
sizes.
it's in
Right
here
there.
already, but
Yeah.
right now you have to have a half acre lot
So
in
what-
a single family home.
But we gotta get to
But
that
if we make it
section.
smaller, we can.
We're not going to get to it today.
So
We're
the
not gonna get
sticking
to that
point
section
was
today, but that would-
OR, what did we say with OR? Because only what I said.
You haven't decided
The
yet.
rest of the other ones, we said permitted use with an asterisk, that it had to be in a conservation
Okay.
Except
subdivision.
business part, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so residence multi-unit. We have Mudor and Orley as permitted as conservation subdivision. We have Business Park as permitted, not conservation subdivision, because and then we have Office Research as permitted. Do we have to add, do we want, that should mirror single residence, single family,
Well-
so not as conservation
All right,
subdivision.
all right, let's backtrack. When we say permitted as a conservation subdivision, across the board, we could modify that definition as permitted conservation subdivision required for anything that's 2 acres or larger, right?
Well, we could get into that in
Yeah,
Right,
dimensions, yeah.
or.
so
anything
that's
bigger-
created our
bigger,
ultra
right? And then if we just
dense-
use that, then these small lots in OR, you know, we do that same thing, but all the small lots in OR are permitted by right
Yeah,
because they're too small for a conservation subdivision. rule.
Yeah.
yep.
Don't we
Trigger.
already say that, though? It has to be 3 lots?
No,
or
no, no,
more?
no. That's a different, that's in the subdivision conservation subdivision regulations, it has a thing, it does have a list of what is allowed, but it's currently set rather high. It's another one of those things that needs to be tweaked.
But you can
Because
have-
it basically says, if you're only doing 1 lot every 7 years, then you can ignore conservation subdivision.
Right.
And that is a loophole that I
It
think we
is.
need to close,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it makes that
So,
lot
so that's
really
why I'd like to
valuable.
include, I mean, whatever threshold the conservation subdivision might have for as a mandatory thing, I think for the purpose here and how we're using it as an asterisk, that it makes sense to have a second
Yeah.
layer of trigger.
So that's a great idea. How do we make sure that goes over to the big people?
We make that as part of the definition, and then when it
Yeah.
gets to the planning board, it gets massaged.
Yeah.
It gets
You don't
looked
want
at
to
in more
lose it.
depth.
That was great. I'm not just flattering you, but I was
So,
impressed.
So what, did you want to make now with multifamily conservation subdivision, we'll have to clarify that because a lot of that's oriented to single family creating lots. but
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
clarify that. But,
It was
so
pretty
did you want to
exciting
make some kind of
about
minimum
new
lot
housing
size
types.
for some of these.
Well, can
Well, let's wait till we get
Can
to
we
this
get
side.
to, I think
No,
that.
no, because, no, it's important that we talk about, because right now, what's the minimum lot size in OR is 40,000 square feet for a single family that's not part of a conservation subdivision. So that is an acre, roughly.
Yeah.
So that's not horrible. I mean, most of those, I'd actually have to sit down now and take a look at what the general lot size is. But if we say in our asterisk that, that we, 2 acres, if you're under 2 acres, then you don't have to go conservation subdivision. If it's over 2 acres, take a look at it.
For
Yeah.
multi-housing?
Yeah.
It is, there's only a couple of lots anyway.
brought
that's
it
gonna
down.
trigger Anyway.
And-
You're not
and-
gonna get
Oh, right,
anything.
we were looking at
But you could
multi-unit.
do a cottage,
And that's the 80,000 for multi-unit, yeah.
I
You're
guess
not
that's
gonna
okay
get
for the
much.
2 acres, except
Yeah.
you could
That's about
put
right
like
for
10 homes in a
2-acre
cottage
cutoff.
court.
You can put a lot of
On
homes
two
in,
acres.
yeah.
I don't think you're gonna get much in conservation land with a three units.
No.
Yeah, again, I'll come up with
Yeah,
some
no,
suggested
that's right.
language, because it's,
Let's look
It's
at
something we
that.
want to apply only for OR,
Yeah.
but then when you go to look at it for the other zones, it breaks
Well,
down.
yeah,
So,
let's
so we might want to just have that asterisk for
Yeah,
OR, right? But that's,
yeah.
We're doing good work here.
Yeah, look, maybe we
I think it can work in
and I-
OR, we just don't want to use it everywhere else. But so make a note that we want to look at that
Yeah.
at the planning board level.
Double
Yeah.
stars.
so
If-
for the multifamily for OR Route 108, if it's then maybe if it's more than X number of acres, 3 acre, 2, 3 acres,
Yeah,
something like
write
that.
it down and we can talk
Yeah.
about it next
Yeah.
time.
If
But-
it's greater than 2 acres.
If we can just finish up pork chop and be done
Greater
for
than 3
today.
acres.
You want to just, do we want to bag the pork chop section? And
Why
take-
do we have a pork chop? What is
Oh,
the
it-
big deal
Big
about
thing
a
for
pork
rural
chop?
areas.
Well, then we just start putting up a P and
So pork chop subdivisions, right, you get that narrow entry.
get that one end.
So what you're doing is you're buffering from the road in
Right.
the other neighborhoods. What you're doing now is you're creating a lot of, as Judith said earlier, habitat that is wooded but useless for the wildlife.
Yeah, because
Well,
you have to cross.
basically, it's like, this is my sister-in-law's land, which is on one side of the Lamprey River. She has the ability to have a driveway, which in fact the town thinks is theirs, and then it balloons up. So she needs to be able to go in there, when she doesn't have the road frontage for those lots, to put in an entryway
go-
like that, and then have lots go off of it.
Houses all
It's
around.
almost
That's
like a
what a
pizza
pork chop
slice.
is.
It's like
Yeah.
pizza
Yeah.
slices, really.
It-
That's
it-
what I look like.
it-
But you have smaller, like you said, you have a driveway.
Its most useful idea is to be able to, if you have.
It's like a court.
If you have some houses up close to the road, but then you have a lot of free space behind them, to be able to access that free space that's behind them.
Yeah.
It's a good tool, but I mean, I don't know that the numbers are, it has a minimum area, minimum frontage. It's a good tool, but it should be revisited. I don't know if the numbers are
We
right.
changed, we
We
don't,
did look
right
at it a
now,
few
we
years
only
ago.
allow it in rural and in
RC.
RC.
And really,
And
what,
we changed that to permit it in all of our industrial areas. That's what we did back in '22.
so the
So-
real question is pork
Oh,
chop
no,
versus.
now it's only allowed in rural and residential. Oh, you
No,
propose
on
that.
our
Yeah.
proposed,
that,
we
yeah.
So
proposed.
here's I think the question we have to look at, is there ever a situation where we would prefer a pork chop subdivision over a conservation subdivision?
You're so
Well,
different.
Depend on the
a pork chop
land.
subdivision's only 2 or 3 lots, and a conservation subdivision is 4 or more lots.
So-
The industrial areas, it would allow them to have a common deeded driveway
Right.
Right.
with these things. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to do it because they have this access, but they don't have any frontage.
Yeah, it allows you, if you have narrow frontage, but you got a lot of backland, it allows you to subdivide off 1 or 2 new lots. Rather than the alternative you know, if you have 10 acres in the back and no frontage, without a pork chop subdivision, either you cannot subdivide, or, you know, you've got to go to expense of putting in a major road with lots fronting on that, which is a much bigger deal.
Yeah, it's a really
tool.
good tool.
What?
When you need it, it's a really
Yeah.
important tool.
But we are only allowing it right now in rural and RC.
And that makes no sense.
I know,
What's the
we
reason not
made,
to?
No, because rural and RC are the two places where you don't need it.
Well, RC is a very dangerous place for it.
Yeah. So if anything, it should not be allowed in any of our, in R or RC. I could see where in RB it might be useful.
there is
Because
land
we
in
have a lot
R-
of narrow, deep
Yeah,
lots in
there is
RB.
land in RB that it could be very useful. For instance, that one at what is it, 199 Madbury Road, that derelict lot. You could go in.
There's an R, yeah, there's even a few spots in RA where it could be useful. But R and RC, the whole idea that there's something in front blocking your rear, not with the amount of space that,
There's a number of lots in the, at least, but probably in both rural and RC.
Why don't we just do it
that
across
where
the
it would
board?
be applicable. RC, I'm sort of surprised no one's objected, because you could have a big, deep lot on Durham Point Road, and somebody could, you know, create 2 or 3 lots without enough frontage. No one's.
probably
that
too
could
wet to
be
make it work,
objectionable
but
to some
Right
folks.
on the
Depends on the
water.
piece of land.
What?
Right on the water. I think there are people who get really snookered
I think-
because they've provided a right-of-way, they've taken all the land and they said, but I'll leave you a right-of-way, thinking nothing's gonna happen, and then kaboom. They've got houses being built at this
The,
end of what they thought was just a
I-
right-of-way.
I don't like it for RC and R.
You could take it away in RC and maybe leave it just rural, or rural and RB.
RA, that one lot's RA.
Make it RA and RB.
I'd like to modify the conservation subdivision rules so that it would work for fewer than 4
Well, we have to
lots.
modify the conservation subdivision.
And-
So PPP, no P, so it's PPPX, and then permitted all the way across the other side?
All right, so R, permitted,
Yeah.
A,
No.
per-
We-
A should we permit it in
There's
A?
probably not many lots. that
There's
would
like
apply
2
in
lots
A,
that it would work in.
But it could,
There might
CU?
be.
CU.
You could make it CU.
make it
No.
CU, no. Either permit it or don't. If there's a reason why you're
Right.
concerned about it happening there, then just don't permit it.
If it's
Why
only,
is it a concern?
yeah, if it's only 2 lots that are gonna be done, then why not just,
Then why not
why
do
not
it?
Make a
allow
permit.
it, just allow
Then
it?
P,
The lot has to be big enough to
What if
subdivide.
somebody
Yeah.
tears down that house? I think we have to think, we can't just think, well, right now there's this.
Well, then they can put up, if they tear down the house, they have to be large enough to subdivide it. If they tear down the house on a 20,000 square foot lot, and that's all that is allowed for a home, then they can only build one more home. They can't tear it down and build a development unless they have the actual land
If
that's,
they have the acreage, but they don't
Then-
have the frontage,
then they could do a pork chop.
right, then they can do a pork chop. So that would be
A
the
P.
RA and the RB we're doing.
yeah,
Yeah,
And then B, you think should be permitted?
yes. Oh, B should be should
So
be
B
so
should be
permitted.
permitted.
Talk
'cause it's-
about infill needs.
Now, what
Now,
about,
RC, I kind of have on there's 2 sides to RC. There's a section of RC that I think was a mistake making an RC, just like I think there was a mistake making a section of Orly. And
Oh, is
and
that
that's
on the opposite side
north
of
of
the road?
Route 4. So the problem with RC is all the shoreline,
Yeah.
and then they added a bunch of stuff that's north of Route 4. And that stuff that's north of Route 4 should absolutely get pork chopped for a lot of it.
Well, that's along the brooks, right? It's not just the shoreland of the
Some of them
Oyster-
are along the brooks, most of it, but a lot of them are just highland.
Right, 'cause like Johnson Creek is an important tributary to the Oyster River.
Well, and that would have offsets.
Well, you know, one thing,
well,
I mean, if somebody subdivides in the RC, to provide more water, they would have to provide 200, if you want to create 2 lots in RC, then any new lot would have to, on the water, would have to have, all of them would have to have 200 feet of frontage on the Oyster River.
I'm talking about the lots that aren't on the Oyster River.
Oh,
You know how,
Yeah.
how little 200 feet is? I bet you can throw a stone 200 feet.
Not anymore, but when
Not
I was a
anymore.
kid, I could.
But yeah, is it 200 feet from here to that building?
If you're in the middle,
could hit a golf
if
ball
you're in
easily
the middle
200
of the
feet.
outfield,
I can't
and you
hit a
can
golf
throw to
ball.
home base, that's 200 feet.
Right. It's not as big as we think.
Well, okay,
But
Pork
my
chops.
point was, the lots that aren't on, that are north of Route 4, that are not on water, you know, you got some rather large lots backing onto Madbury, which could take advantage of a pork chop, but I really wouldn't want you doing pork chops anywhere else in RC, because that's just, I don't know.
first of all, okay,
But
can,
I'm back to, I'd
let's
rather
just-
see conservation subdivisions than pork
can,
chops.
can we make some decisions on pork chops? Because I actually want to go back quickly to
So no?
senior.
So would that be no? In RC, would you say no?
I would say no in RC.
But we'd have to have a discussion as to why it's no.
Okay.
People can always get variances to put in another house if they want to.
yeah, it shouldn't be.
I know, we don't want to set it up that way, but, you know, where there are special
And
exceptions.
then
There
in the
would be.
research industry districts, again, I'd rather see.
Well,
I'd
I don't
rather
know
see
that you
conservation subdivision.
need to, I mean, because, in OR, I don't think you, it's mostly small lots.
Because
And you're saying for single family, in the other three, you need a conservation subdivision anyway, so you'd have flexibility.
yeah, so I don't think we
I don't
need
think you
Ps over
need it
there.
You want to, so all the Ps in your commercial, OR, Moodor, Orly, and Durham Business Park should
Basically,
be
X.
X's?
X?
Okay. I want to get to the manufactured housing.
Well, I want to, before we're going to do that next time, so we only have like
Well,
7
we have
minutes
5
left.
minutes left. Manufactured
Before we
housing.
finish up, though, I want to go back, one thing we did not address at all in the last one in 22 was senior housing, single-family, duplex, and multi-unit. They are all as conditional use. Why are they conditional use?
Because they're not really seniors going in there. We need to change our definition of seniors.
Well,
Oh, you mean
no,
it's
no, 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 no,
55?
but
They ought to
that-
be 65.
Should those be
Older
permitted?
than
Why are
me.
why are we giving, no, but why are we giving senior housing and duplexes and multi-units
Yeah, that's
a
true.
higher bar now that we're looking at
No, they
single
should,
family?
they should
Those
match
all be
up.
Ps.
They should match up.
They should
Yeah,
all
the
be
reason that
Ps.
was done is it's a way to avoid student housing.
They need to all be Ps.
And they get a density
Yeah.
bonus
Well, I
too.
think we ought, to- you know, we don't, how much more of it do we need?
Senior?
But we can't say you can't build them,
So-
and actually there is a shortage of senior housing in nationwide too.
But how long is that going to last? 2 decades? And then they all die?
Yeah,
Because
but,
look at,
We're right up there.
look
Sorry,
at the
Judith.
demographic curves.
well, that's true, but
If
are
you're going to talk about a student cliff, a student enrollment cliff, you also have to talk about the senior housing cliff.
we have a
There's going
senior
to come a point
ditch.
where you're not going to have enough people
Mortuary.
to put in there.
Yeah, but
It's
then you
a
could
dip,
change
it's a
them.
ditch.
But then
Well,
you
the
could
thing
just
is that
change them.
it's also easily taken advantage of. You know, anybody who,
I
their
would-
children move, I had
remove them all.
children in
You can
school
move all
when I
the
was
senior
55.
housing
I would remove all the senior housing lines.
Okay,
and just
so-
make it that it's, well, the thing
Multi-unit.
is you've allowed
And
it.
if the developer wants to put a senior housing restriction on the thing, that's up to them. I don't care.
All right, so what you're saying is a thought. I'm saying the two things. I'm hearing remove senior housing as a category completely, or take senior housing and give it the same bar as multi-unit, which would be permitted. Which one? I don't think that
Well,
senior
it's also
housing should be conditional use.
Senior housing gets a lot of breaks.
Are there density
like
bonuses?
tax breaks and things like that.
There are density
There are
bonuses.
density
And
bonuses.
bonuses, and so, yeah, those bonuses have to,
But that's a
Then-
developer call. Why build it into the zoning?
Well,
Right.
the town has a bonus for senior housing, really for 2 reasons. It's a legal way to keep out students, but secondly, it's tax advantage, because they're not
right.
putting kids in the schools.
So we've got developers coming in with, I'm looking for people who want that missing middle, right? Our kids are supposedly gone. We're not running around in wheelchairs. So there's an age missing middle there, right?
Well, it's 55.
So it should be like 55, 65, 70?
Well, it's 50, the age for senior housing is one person has to be 55 years old.
Well, if we don't have it, if we
Which
have it.
defeats the tax break.
If it
I know.
had to be 60,
But we can't do.
We can't do that,
set
that's
by
state.
federal law.
And that has nothing to do with
That's state and federal
what we're
laws.
going
No,
to,
that's, I don't think 55 is, because state of New Hampshire's age limit isn't 55. We put 55.
And there's,
What
It
is
gets
age?
higher. You'd have to look at the New Hampshire.
well, either way,
RSA.
are we
the
going,
RSA has the two things, and one of
Yeah.
them does the
Yeah.
55.
One's
Well,
higher than, one's
do we
lower
need to
than the other.
do
We
we
use the
need to
lower
look
one.
at this later because we're
Yeah.
going
We've run
on.
out of time.
Yeah.
So, senior housing, we're just
Well, if-
leaving it the way it is right now?
But I think, you know, whoever was saying loophole for a tax loophole, that's what the senior housing things are.
They
You know,
are.
we let them zone in as a senior housing, all right? They get the tax break in perpetuity, but we don't really control the fact that there aren't any kids in there.
And
Oh,
you
well,
know
that's for a
what?
senior care facility. That's a continuing care retirement community. Riverwoods has that. But
But
that's
for
a senior
senior-
care facility,
but
not.
for-
Yeah, that's
For
different than
development-
single-family and
For
duplex.
development, that is
Okay.
only for seniors, like what we have where Daryl lives, right? He lives in one of those.
Yes, it's a very nice community back there.
Is that really something we should be encouraging? Because you're right, there is
What we should
there is
just
an
do
old
is,
people
we should just have housing, and we should be able to have the same
Baby
density
boomers
as senior housing.
are a dying breed.
It, you know, it's.
Who's the dying breed?
the
Baby
need-
boomers.
Bad choice
We
of
are.
words.
Here's the
just gonna
thing,
be
the need for
sustainable.
housing is great. The need for specialized housing
Is
is a
not.
temporary phenomenon,
Yeah, you're right.
right? Zoning needs to be thinking a little more long-term than the temporary phenomenon.
I mean,
Maybe time to
I think
lose
when I
the-
look at this though, because again, you separated out senior housing. We just went through and did like single-family duplex and multi-unit. And then the two specialized cases where we're gonna give density would theoretically be senior and workforce.
Should be everybody.
It should,
It
I'm
should
almost
just
like
match.
to scratch the senior part and say,
Give
You know,
density to
for-
everybody.
we give density to workforce and that's how it works.
Well, that's,
We give
which is
density to
why, I
people.
mean, those three lines are
Just give it
repeating
to
the upper
people.
three lines.
Yeah.
I would say just,
For the reason of allowing the density bonus that goes in there. And so I'm just thinking, how do we massage it? So yes, we're allowing single-family duplexes and multi-units. We said what we're allowing. And then we could have another thing saying, okay, that would be lot size, or what is the density bonus that we're applying to those? And there's two categories that we have for the density bonus applying, workforce and senior housing. We allow it there, but to get a more compacted thing in the area, the
Yep.
density bonus, these are the things that you have to meet. And then we could just scratch the whole like senior housing out, right?
I like
Does
that.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. The other thing.
It's just like an added thing, so it's allowed, it's permitted, but in a case where you want to get a density bonus on that permitted use, so a special lot size requirement, it meets workforce. or
and that's
senior.
where it's like, it should get removed, but we probably should hold on to it until we have the other things in place.
Yep,
So if you're looking at like step 4 or 5 down the road, that would be removing this.
yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, I
Oh,
think we
wait,
have
well,
to
I mean, if
relook
you
at
want
it.
to
Why don't we just
remove it,
leave it
why
as
do you-
is for
Why
now?
not remove it now?
At the same time.
Well, I mean, if some people feel they still need the bonus, want to be able to build with bonus.
I think,
I mean, our bonus mechanisms are the overlay district and conservation subdivision. Those are our two bonus mechanisms,
Yeah.
right? I don't think we have a third one,
Well, for senior, it's a
Well,
big bonus.
we
for
have a
senior.
senior.
other
but
than
do
the
we-
senior one, right?
do we-
But that locks you into a type of how, that locks you into a specific demographic in perpetuity, which is a
The thing
mistake.
is when if you, anywhere that you allow the senior bonus, you have to allow the workforce by law.
Correct.
Right.
So
True.
it's like.
But we
so
don't have to allow a senior bonus anymore. We could
But-
suggest we lose the
But I
senior.
thought the senior bonus only came in through the conservation subdivision.
No, it's anywhere you do senior housing.
Anywhere you do senior housing?
But it's not by lot size, it's by density for either a duplex or multi-unit.
We're hitting into noon.
Yeah.
I think it would be good for us to stop and think about
Totally.
senior housing and the viability of it as a need, the fairness of it, if there is.
Seniors can live in workforce housing.
I
They
think we
can.
need housing
It
for
should- it
normal
should.
people. And the issue that we have,
79.
the issue that we have with senior housing is the density bonus that's there, and it's easier to build denser senior housing and not make it affordable, because the people that are, because there's baby boomers have more money, versus having to make workforce housing that's
Or,
affordable. So it's easier to build.
I like it.
That plays
Eileen
off
just
of,
said, you want it
off
to be
of
workforce, because that
Edgewood.
ties into an income.
Yeah, there's two of them in
Partridge or
there.
whatever, yeah.
There's two of them
I
in
forget what
there,
they're
and they're really nice. I'm like, a young couple would really like to live here.
Yeah, but they can't.
I know, and not only that, if
And-
we
and you're
leave
right,
this
they-
and we leave the density bonus for the seniors,
All right.
then nobody will ever build anything else, because
We gotta come back.
normal
We need
people can't do
to
that.
decide on what our next scheduled meeting actually is,
Using,
is.
5 weeks away.
We
should
need to
add
meet
another
before.
one.
We need to do another one
But
in March.
we add, yeah, one, the 17th or the 10th. The 10th is next week, or the 17th. We need another one in March, because this actually was meant to be an extra.
I
meeting.
could do the 17th,
I
I
can
can't
do
do
the
the 10th.
17th.
comes racing.
Does the 17th work, Mike and Judith?
Yeah, broke a bone.
I hate to interrupt, but the 17th, I will not be able to do, and I do not have anyone that will fill in for me. So if you'd
Maybe
like
we
it
could just-
recorded, that's not going to be possible.
All right, 10th or
But I think
24th?
that, no, I think that's, Craig, it's okay if we still meet here, but it's just not on DCAT or Zoom.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay,
You can
that's
meet here,
fine.
it's just,
Let's
you know.
That's fine,
Let's
yeah.
do that.
That's
The
it.
I mean, we just
17th?
take really good meeting minutes, that's all.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, right, by
17th,
usual.
to
Yeah.
meet again to continue this discussion?
Yes.
Yeah.
March
Yes, yes,
17th?
yes.
If you can,
We're on a roll.
as long as we have
Yes.
5 people here, we're fine.
We're the best of the best.
I agree.
And if you can't make it and have some thoughts on this senior housing thing, you might have some interesting thoughts, Mike. You might actually be the last senior housing thing built.
In another month, I'll be 79. I'm all for the senior house.
You're going to be a senior soon, Judith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon,
I was out skiing,
There you go.
and then I
Free, hopefully, at
and I
Gunstock.
got taken out by an out-of-control skier.
A snowboarder?
No, just a
Skier.
real skier.
Yeah, it
That
was written
happens.
up at Stratton as a major
They
event.
hit you?
A major event.
They were going.
That happened to Todd too a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
My
A
wife-
snowboarder.
My wife got hit by it.
Yeah, she
broke
got-
her pelvis, like,
Broke
yeah,
her
up in
pelvis.
Canada.
Oh, my God.
Broke
Yeah.
a bone in my back, and I'm not supposed to use screens because they think that my brain might